Lily and I work for Manulife Forest Management, and we have an amazing job where we work for our client, the Muckleshoot Indian tribe. They purchased back about 100,000 acres of their ancestral land in 2013. So, yeah, huge. And so this ancestral land, it has been a working forest for 100 years, but the opportunity came up. So the tribe purchased the property, and Manulife is the company helping conduct the operations, basically, and get the property paid for. So the difference is that it's fee-based land, it's not in trust. So it's a great opportunity for the tribe to enact their sovereignty and, on that land. And although it's been a working forest for 100 years and it's still a working forest, it's very non-typical because our client, the tribe, has different goals. So it is not to just let's make as much profit as possible off the land. It's about having that ancestral land base back to reconnect and build relationship. So we get to do a lot of really amazing initiatives on the property. We have a Muckleshoot Silviculture crew, a Muckleshoot Roads crew, and then in the summer we get to employ 15 to, it's even been up to 30 youth that are ages 16 to 19, and they come out and work 40-hour work weeks on their land. Other things are field trips. We do understory planting of cultural plants like wild rose or blue elderberry. And we do a lot of gathering. I think I'll stop there.
The management strategy that we use on the tribe has the goal of paying off the loan that the tribe took out to purchase the property. So we do timber harvest on the majority of the property to pay off the loan, and then there is another piece of property that the tribe has owned for a bit longer that is already paid off, and the logging that happens on that part of the property is what pays our youth and for our other initiatives like those field trips at the community event that we hold every fall.
All right, we're gonna start off with Alexis, who will be in her third year this summer as our lead.
So as Ms. Simna was saying, as this is a fee-based land and not trust, this forest is owned by a sovereign nation. And what happens today is done with future descendants in mind. So the development and the creation of the Tomanamus Summer Youth Program is practicing sovereignty. The act of cultivating future stewards for the land and for the next generation is exercising sovereignty. Creating economic opportunities in the community through growth-based programs, creating space to learn and practice job skills, and programming designed to give back. So our youth have tended to the land through understory planting, invasives removal, medicine collection, and trail maintenance. These, again, are all acts of sovereignty. Learning and sharing traditional ecological knowledge is exercising sovereignty. Recognizing and determining what our work day looks like and entails and what that day calls for is exercising our sovereignty. Our youth took part in learning and gathering data collection on the property, contributing to the scientific community and research in climate change and the impacts on land. That's the picture you see there with them with the clipboard. They were actually measuring essentially the growth differences between two types of different planted Doug firs, and this was based on essentially trying to determine whether or not more southern trees are kind of at a more of an advantage with climate change as in terms of temperature, and so we're trying to see which ones were essentially growing faster, dealing with the new temperature changes. And so as I continue, other acts of sovereignty that our youth displayed are made possible through this land, and that includes gathering and giving to community, as an act of love and care. This includes berries, berry leaves for tea, nettle seeds, nettle leaves, St. John's wort, mullein, nettle stalks, cattail, beargrass, red clover, cedar leaf, and camas seeds, just to name a few. On the Vashon property, our youth, they have not only been able to gather foods there that are for sustenance. So the food here from Vashon Island is for sustenance only. And so our youth gave back by taking care of the trail upkeep in order to get down to the actual water itself, as well as learning what it means to have access to a clean environment and to have access to the harvesting of the shellfish and sustainable foodways. And so we've taken a trip out there the last 3 years, and just to see some of these kids who might not have ever done it or felt very comfortable being in outdoors. This may have been their first time, their first job in this kind of environment. But to see them on this island get their hands dirty, just elbows deep in the mud, clamming, was phenomenal. I'm sure they can tell you more about that. But I wanted to express that our youth exercise their sovereignty on a daily basis, all throughout their movements on the land, throughout their community, from gathering berries to make jams for their elders and their community, to collecting medicines for cultural needs of the community, to them volunteering their skills and their knowledge with other communities and working work exchanges and hosting tours so that they can provide lessons and essentially pass on the responsibility of the knowledge that they were gaining. It's that responsibility to then share it with others. And so they're doing that and they're practicing that. And so we brought out a couple people, and they choose what lessons that they really learn from this, and they're going to choose that and carry that with them into their adulthood. And that's what we're hoping, is that they can gain as much of this knowledge to pass on.
You've seen this many neighbors in a while, Holly. So this one's going to be about building connections between the land and the people itself, I would say. How we did that usually was doing a lot of icebreakers and a lot of meetings with each other. That's actually with a person who's a community expert, Devin Whitaker, and just like, you know, going through the work and struggling together, but also making sure to keep everyone up as well. And
In that thing right at
yeah, okay. And just, you know, supporting each other as a whole throughout the whole process. And when we do struggle, you know, we open up, you know what I mean, and feel vulnerable. But it's good because it strengthens us as a group as a whole, I would say. You know, there was some moments where I most likely, you know, was feeling a bit tired, but also like, you know, trying to keep on going. And a lot of these people that we worked with and all these guys, you know, really helped me out with the way we shape the land, I would say. Yeah, building connections as well. Wilderness survival skills we did for 3 days. You know, just teaching. You know, they came out to come teach us about wilderness survival and building fires and all kinds of survival tactics, I would say. And also I want to point out, one of our youth crew members was teaching our wilderness people, you know, about first aid plants on the site, I would say. So it's not only they're teaching us, we're also teaching them in some ways. And that type of experience, I would say. And, you know, by working out and the physical exhaustion of our work, you know, really helped us be more connected and more strengthened throughout the weeks, at least in my, you know, what I think, so. Building connections again with the community experts. We had Leslie come out for traditional medicine, helping us about just the medicines and plants around the area. And also we had Lily help us with jam. I see that. Huckleberry jam to be exact. And it was a really good experience learning about how to like make jam and also how to extract the plants as well, but in a more friendlier environment instead of using, you know, processed equipment and stuff like that. We're doing it natural, because we don't want to harm the plants in the general area. So we did a lot of work exchanges with a couple work exchanges with some programs. One of them was the Port of Seattle. It was a really good challenge, I would say. The last year before I was working, they also did this work exchange, and they were, planting in a certain port of the area, and got to see that grow after a year. And then we helped them out again with another part of the area, and it was really good. It was really exhausting, but it felt good to see our work paid off in the end. And as you can see from these photos, just helping out each other and building those relationships with each other and the team that we were all part of.
Just to add to that last slide here, if you look at the picture on the left, back where the podiums are, one of our kids, Noah, in the red, he's standing on that. The year prior, that entire area was just mud. It was completely mud. We couldn't even really walk in there. We had to stand on those big old cement blocks in order to get around. And this year, it was completely filled in with all new vegetation, so much so that we actually had to go to a different section of the area, and then we replanted all of these new plants here, essentially so that we can help minimize how much of our actual shoreline is being washed away.
Yeah, just to add on to that, we also did another work exchange with the Rainier Youth Corps.
Too many, I think.
Oh, my bad.
We'll go back to that. Okay.
Yeah, the exchange with the Rainier Youth Corps. It was a really good collaboration with them, I would say. We never really known each other before that, so it was, we were all kind of grouped up with their own little cliques. But throughout the process of learning what they do and how they operate, it really opened up to all of us, oh, look at what these guys do, look at how different they are compared to what we do. And it was really connective when we were working together and just feeling that passion and all that. And it was really good. It was a really good time working with them. I had a great time with them, at least. Let's go back to that. And you want to add on? Just more pictures of what we were doing. After we went and visited over to where they were at, what trail they were at, they came over to visit us after that, so we can teach them about what we do as well as applying what we learned from them and applying it, to our own area. As this is Boise Falls right here. In the Tomanamus area, and we were working out with them, with Rachel. We were all, it was just a great experience to be a part of that. And there were some people who had never worked out in their life, and they were really, really strengthened after that, I would say. I mean, there were some that were like, man, this is crazy, man, and they really enjoyed it. And we really enjoyed what they were doing with us. So now I'm going to pass the mic.
In this slide, we were going up to Crystal Mountain. So working up in Crystal Mountain, we ended up working with a lot of the professionals who not only worked up there, but also ended up living up there. It was really fascinating to just see how hard these people were working. They taught us how to build steps out of rock. And we also did a lot of, hiking. We went up in the gondola and then we hiked all the way down. It was a very steep hike. It really tested, at least personally, my endurance on hikes. We also did a lot of, what is it called? The rope. The ropes course. At the very end of our season, we went up and we did the ropes course, and we spent, I think, almost the whole day up there. As you can see in the right corner, one of our leads, Claire, having a blast. They had a section where you just jumped off, which really tested my fear of heights. Was not great. But we all ended up doing, I think we all got through at least one, definitely, almost all of them. As you can see on the left, we were sitting next to the river on our hike down. I know Alexis, I think she stuck her head in the water somewhere in there. Yeah, you can see her. So we all kind of just dipped our feet in and relaxed, and it really helped me personally connect with nature up in there. My favorite moment when we were up in Crystal was on a lunch break with one of our leads, supposed to be getting food. There was an area to dig crystals. We were supposed to buy a bag and look through all the crystals. We didn't do that. We ended up going into all of the throw-out piles where people missed all the little stuff and ended up picking through that through the whole lunch break. We ended up not eating, which was not great either. We found a lot of crystals. We ended up having a whole little bag, so Crystal Mountain was got to be one of my personal favorites.
I just wanted to point out too in that last one where Debbie was talking is really a lot of healthy risk-taking that the youth get to do together. So that's one of the amazing parts of the program, that we're taking risks, we're pushing ourselves, we're getting uncomfortable every day, whether it's just we're hot and sweaty from our work, or we're pushing ourselves in a workout, or we're walking down a scary trail with a shale, slide down the edge.
One of the things that we really value in this program is job exposure. So one of the goals of the tribe in creating this program is to expose youth to natural resource careers. We just want to raise awareness that there are jobs for youth outside that require a variety of different training levels. You can go to college, you can go to an associate degree program and come out with a certificate, or you can go straight into the workforce. There are options for youth. So we really want to emphasize that. Some of the ways that we do that are going out to job sites. On the right here, you can see an active logging unit harvest that we visited in 2023. That harvest is a skips and gaps harvest, which means that we go in to a full stand of timber and we'll harvest a section about the portion of this room, and then not harvest for another portion about this size, and then harvest again, which creates gaps in the forest canopy. Those gaps allow light to reach the forest floor, and then we plant an elk forage mix underneath. This creates a great foraging area for elk and allows us to harvest timber for revenue to pay off the property. The Tomanamus tree farm actually is at 99 or 98% carrying capacity, which means that we have pretty much all of the elk that the property can sustain at a healthy population. So that is a partnership project with MIT Wildlife. And then on the left, on the right, you can see the 2023 youth crew, a group picture after we spent the day with the U.S. Forest Service covering piles for burning. So we went out and helped them cover slash piles with plastic to keep them dry so that they could be burned. The area that we did that in was being restored for huckleberry and elk habitat.
I love my job. I feel like I have the best job in the world for me. It was tailor-made. And I have to say that my absolute favorite part of my favorite most wonderful job is the summer, and we're with the summer youth crew. And I'm a little bit lucky that I get to see a little bit more of a helicopter bird's eye view of the work that gets done. And so when there's opportunities to bring different groups together, especially different generations, we take advantage of that. Every summer, the Muckleshoot College puts on an effective teaching institute, and we do a field trip to Tomanamus Forest, and our youth crew who has opened up the trails is there to host and direct them and talk to them about their work on the landscape. We've also come out with littles, even a Head Start that came out. They helped host and work with the kids around. And then on this side, you can see Debbie and Cedar Grove telling the grandmother Cedar story. So I wanted to point out that when we're giving these youth the opportunity to be outside and learn in place, they really take ownership of it and turn around and share that back out. And it is the absolute best medicine to see.
We're helping to redefine a working forest by exercising our sovereignty on tribal land. Since the tribe doesn't spray herbicides, we spent a lot of time hand pulling a lot of invasive species like ivy, Scotch broom, tansy, and stink bog. By doing this, we're showing other landowners that herbicides are not always necessary and that widespread preventative application is not necessary. Log operations are done with a 100-year plan in mind, which is very important, and it's also not maximizing profit. Input is given by tribal wildlife biologists, which approve thinning and clearing. We also make the most by allowing cultural practitioners to come in and peel cedar bark or gather cedar root from tip trees that will eventually be logged. We provide jobs that promote overall well-being and connection to the land. This job specifically is an example of how our goals are about community health and personal growth for young people, which is obviously this group, which was very important just in order to help us connect to the land. Is the next one me too? Did you swap over? Okay. So in this one, this shows us all building trails up in Rainier with their crew. This has got to be one of the most hardworking days I had personally. As you can see on the right, that's Claire helping pile a ton of rocks, like so many rocks you've never seen that. And she powered through so hard, I did not think she had it in her. I thought she was gonna fall over. And they went up and down this big old hill, like, gotta say like 100 times. We had the same thing happening with a bunch of dirt in order to just help with building up the trails. This is also a place where we learned to put in check steps. I wish we were to learn this sooner. It was honestly the biggest learning experience. When we went back to our trails, we immediately started putting in check steps. It definitely made going on hikes a lot easier, a lot more safe, less rickety, like you're gonna slip and fall. They're also wildly difficult to put in sometimes. Some of them can be pretty finicky. So working with this crew really, really taught me how much work that they're putting in. They have so many strict rules on how they're able to do stuff just in order to keep everybody safe. And they work around a lot more hikers since it is a public trail and it's also a very popular trail. So a lot of people are coming by and going, oh, like, hi, what you guys doing? So I feel like we were able to really spread the word about what we were doing and how we're able to manage the trails and keep track of them by having a bunch of different people come by. And they all seemed very appreciative of what we were doing, and it was really just a helpful motivator to keep working on the trails. We also spent a couple days at Vashon Island. It is a tribal beach, so they ended up growing a lot of clams. There was just rows and rows and rows of clams. We were able to dig some up, take them home, and eat them. They also had, was it gooey ducks? Gooey ducks. We ended up digging up one. I had never heard of gooey ducks before. And they're also very, very difficult to get out of the ground. Our guide was helping us with them, and even he was having trouble, and he's done this many, many times. Vashon Island also has moon snails, which are very, very large species of snail. So if you're lucky enough, you can find a shell, and they're really cool. We were also able to manage some of the trails over here, just doing a little bit of cleanup and making sure it was nice and pretty for everybody who wanted to come down, and some good seating areas for anybody.
All right. The land shaped us, but we shaped the land by making it happy. So I just really believe in the power of place and getting kids outside and enough to where they can build that relationship to a place, and it's going to bring them a really strong foundation for the rest of their lives and teach them to connect to the places they go live, work, and recreate. And so we really, I know we made the land happy. We walked on the forest trails. We splashed in the water. We swam a lot. It's very hot in the summer.
Almost 90 degrees.
We collected plants and transformed them into medicines and foods. And literally our breath grew the plant medicines and relatives that were around us that provide us the oxygen and shade and gifts of medicine and food. So definitely a mutual flourishing.
So, as I mentioned previously, one of the big goals of this program is to raise awareness in these youth about natural resource jobs. We also try to give them a practical job experience. For many of our youth, this is their first job. To be eligible, you have to be 16 years old and a member of the Muckleshoot tribe or community. So we do have a native hiring preference, which is the tribe's request and obviously their priority to get their youth reconnected with their land and out on the landscape. Even if these youth don't come away going into a natural resource career, at least they will have learned to value and respect the land. If you don't respect it, then why would you protect it, as some other presenters have mentioned with the traditional foods? If you don't care about it, why would you bother to respect it and protect it? So in creating a traditional job or building job skills, we have an interview process. All of our youth go through an interview with myself, Cinnamon, and then another one of our colleagues, Bob. Once they are hired, we then do a drug test, which is pretty typical, as most of you here who have had a job would know. And then in the first couple of weeks, we do first aid training. So all of our youth get Red Cross certified in first aid, which is a really valuable thing, both for their safety while they're working out on the landscape, as well as for their resume and qualifications moving forward. We also do a lot of PPE and safety training. So for those of you who don't know, PPE is personal protective equipment. So you see here, we have hard hats on while we're working with tools. You can see Alexis here in our high vis. We're rooted in safety at Manulife. And this building of a safety mindset is really important. As you know, anyone who's worked in a warehouse, around large vehicles or equipment, if you don't have situational awareness, you're putting yourself at risk, whether you know it or not. So we really try to build that skill set and awareness early on in our youth. We also use skills for safe tool use. We want our youth to look around and think before they swing. One of the skills that we actually learned from the Rainier Youth Corps that we plan on using moving forward is a safety circle. So before we start any activity that uses tools, we go out, stand around in a circle, and share out what we think could be a risk of the day and how to prevent it. Another thing that we really try to build is networking and engagement. So by having out all these community partners, we teach our youth to engage with people, ask questions, and listen actively to their presentations and words. We don't necessarily do presentations like this, but of course, before any activity or tour, you need to listen to your guides. So we do mill tours. We did a tour at the Tacoma Headworks facility, which is the water treatment plant for the watershed that the property is actually on. We also have been to the CAT, machinery sales facility, job sites like the active job site or logging site you saw a picture of earlier, as well as road building and maintenance sites, and other natural resource career-related job sites. At the role, we do have a handbook, so the youth learn about what it's like to have a job that has a handbook, and we create group norms in both the individual crews and the greater group as a whole, and learn skills for building and maintaining respect and clear communication and boundaries. At the end of the program, we do a resume building workshop where Cinnamon, myself, and our crew leads help the youth build their resumes. And then at the end of the program, they come away with references and a resume that's been reviewed by Cinnamon and myself, who do hiring all the time, right? So it's good to have someone who's hiring look at your resume. And we also teach them how to download a resume that's going to appear well when you email it to a potential employer.
The land has really shaped me to be really more confident in kind of the knowledge that I kind of already knew that I had. And I went out there and I didn't really know much about trail work or anything about the workforce. And my sister had worked with this crew before, and she had said how amazing it was and how she learned this and that. And it really made me more comfortable with being out on there and making sure that I had a place to be and a place to protect too. And it also, the time that I had out on the land really made me look at all the stuff that was around me and made me realize how much stuff was almost unprotected in a sense. Unprotected by it being unprotected almost by like natives in a sense. Like saying that there's a lot of land that isn't overlooked by natives and that this is the only land that's really overlooked by natives and really cared for. And it just really made me being out on the land really made me realize that there's a lot of little Indigenous representation out there, and there's a lot of Indigenous representation that needs to be happening out there, and it really showed me how there's many jobs out there, and there's many jobs for us to go out there and take apart and put us in that place that it is ours.
Yeah, just to add on to what Hilary was saying about how the land, I feel like, shaped us and me in general. I was a little bit more first for myself, but after all this, I was more teamwork, and just feeling for others instead of just caring for yourself, care for others, and making sure everyone is okay, and what you're doing is like really, really, good for the environment as well. So the land shaped me to be more team-oriented and more smart about what to do in this environment as well. So that's what I would say. So
For this one, we have the Earth Gym. We had Rachel take us out and work with us, and I know they mentioned before, like some of us had not even been to a gym before, and I was definitely almost up there. I had never worked out with a professional trainer before, so I was not sure what to expect, and they were like, "You're gonna hate her, but you're gonna love her." I had no idea what they meant. I was like, okay, cool, we're gonna work out, do some push-ups, whatever, it'll be fine. It was not fine. She had us do all these crazy workouts. She was working out parts of my body I didn't even think was possible. We were working with the areas around us, which was really nice. There was a little trail to go on, so we went in this big old loop. It was like a mile loop or something like that, and all got to the end, and there wasn't any kind of like, oh, they're slow, or oh, what are they doing? It was all very supportive and very like, come on, like, you can do it, you're gonna do great. And we had like little checkpoints where people were at, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm huffing and puffing, like, this is not my jam, I don't run. And I had a lot of people telling me like, oh, you need some mullein. You need some mullein. I had no idea what that was. But if you breathe it in when you burn it, it's really good for your lungs. And I learned a lot from that. And I learned, hey, look, I can run. So by doing these workouts with her, I feel like it's not only letting you take control of your own body, but it also just lets you realize that you don't need to go to a big fancy gym with super, super heavy equipment and pay $40 a month. Go outside, you can go play with some wood. Either way, you can work out with whatever you have around you, and she really taught me that. She would put on these big old packs with like 40 pounds on them and run with us, and I was like, yeah, I want to be like that. I was telling her how I also had breathing issues, and she looks at me and goes, and I have asthma too. And I was like, you got asthma?
oh my goodness, how are you doing this? So her confidence in that, knowing that she also is dealing with medical issues, she's not some superhero, but she's acting like it, she can get that done. So the Earth Gym really helped me. And it was absolutely true. I did hate her a little bit, but I absolutely loved her. She was definitely one of my favorite people to come with us.
Just to add on and give Rachel her flowers, this woman, when I tell you I could not run my mile in 12 minutes before she started us warming up with a mile run, all right? So now at this point, I'm like, all right, I got all my youth I got to keep up with. So now I'm proud to say I got my mile down to 8 minutes, all right? I'm keeping up with these youth, okay? But what Rachel really showed us is that movement is medicine. And like Devaney was saying, we don't need fancy equipment and all this stuff. Mother Earth provides everything that we need. You know, it's providing that fresh air, that sunlight, that dirt. You need to be able to breathe that in, help build up our immunity, things like that. But being able to be out there on the land and feeling that connection, even now, Western science is just now catching up to say, hey, scientifically, your blood does increase its circulation when you're barefoot. We're like, yeah, we know that. But they're just now catching up. And so it's important for us to have our youth out there because, like I said, movement is medicine. And for a lot of the youth, this was their first time in this environment, their first time hiking and things like that. So it was very important for us to teach them that these movements extend beyond just playing a sport. This is your everyday life. You're going down to pick something up for your grandma off the floor. You're helping your uncle bring something into the house. There's movement in everything. And so we were teaching the youth that you can do this in ways that you don't off the bat have to be a sprinter, a runner, but we can work your way up to it. We can build you the lessons that you need in order to grow that. We can also teach you the medicines and the plants and things like that will help you internally, because what we put in our bodies is just as important. And so it's all so connected, and having Rachel out there with us once a week really kind of honed it in and help us really get present, because sometimes it's very simple. It's very easy for us to kind of get lost in what's going on in the world and things like that, all the stuff that's going on. But when Rachel was out there with us, we had no choice but to think, because we were focusing on not dying, and we're like, okay, we need to breathe. And so it really centers you and makes you become very present again. And so being able to be present and being present on the land and present with each other was just something that isn't very common in a lot of the kind of workspace, like gym spaces nowadays. And so for me personally, it's motivated me to get back into shape so I can start dancing again, because I told the kids I was going to get back on the powwow grounds, and they were like, well, yeah, you should do it. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to say I'm going to do something and tell the kids I'm going to do it, then I'm going to do it. So I should listen to them. So that's why I started making sure I could get out there and run. It's really shaping us.
The land shaped us, again, by really showing us that a job isn't just a job. A lot of times within the job, we did a lot of learning, and we learned about a lot of stuff before we even did trail work. And all that learning that we did beforehand really taught us and really ensured that we knew what we had to do when we worked on the trail and what we had to protect. Make sure that you didn't cut down that devil's club that was right by the trail, because it was right by it doesn't mean it's bad. Just keep it, let it grow just a little bit more. And there's a lot of cultural teachings into the job too. A lot of jobs trail work. She was my crew lead, and she was very let us do here's the job, this is what we need to do done. And it was very much a self-taught, a self-determination. You had to do it yourself. You had to get your own trail done, and it was beautiful at the end. And yeah, there's a lot of cultural teachings that you had to really make sure that you were doing your self-work.
Yeah, there was a lot of cultural teachings when it came to this program. You know, it wasn't just, as Hilary said, it wasn't just all, a job that you just go to. You're also learning about the culture in Muckleshoot, learn about how we and how they do things in a whole general space, Especially Alexis, it was great to see another person who was from a different tribe, because it was great to see what she was bringing to the table, because we were all, some of us weren't Muckleshoot, some of us were from different tribes. I'm from Blackfeet, and I'm also from Muckleshoot. So I get like both worlds of that, of what they do differently and what Muckleshoot does differently. So it really opened up my mind to what other tribes do, what's different over there, So it was really good to learn about cultural teachings here, like with medicine, Doug fir, yarrow, wild rose, and devil's club, and how to harvest them. So that's what I had on that. And another thing was about small groups being connected. We had about, I would say, probably 12 people on average, at least 12 people. And at the start of it, there was a lot of, as I said before, cliques. And throughout the program, you see us being more connected in a circle, more connected as a team. Communication was key in that, and opening up and talking about, other issues. So if you had any mental health issues or any physical health issues, you're able to open up about that and, tell people about it, and it strengthened it, strengthen that cord, and especially as well the workouts, like, the mile run, I thought Rachel was tripping, but, I just put my head down and I just went and did it, and I did it, and I got more confident after that, more self-confidence, that I was able to knock that out on a daily, so it was really good, so, yeah.
So as Harley was saying, in regards to our mental health, the land really provides us a space to be able to be spiritually connected and a safe space to be able to practice our cultural teachings. Many of our youth and our crew leads have expressed the importance of the access to the green spaces, to the plants and to the teachings and the medicines that provide comfort. And being in the forest brings clarity and peace to their minds. I personally am beyond grateful to be on these lands. I'm from the Great Lakes region, so being that I live in the city now, it's been pretty tough not having access to forests and lakes and land so accessible as to what I grew up with. So it's truly been such an honor to be able to be on the Muckleshoot lands and to work with their youth. But not only that, it's being able to connect with them and show them that they do have place here and there is connection. And so as a veteran, it's really been my saving grace. Even just going from the city to the forest helps. I have tinnitus, and so being able to be out in the forest, it really helps subside a lot of that, as well as with my PTSD and anxiety and things. And so the spring water, it replenishes my spirit. The fresh air reinvigorates my lungs. The ringing in my ears subside, and the beauty of the land eases my migraines and racing thoughts. My mental health is shaped by the environment, and so it's no surprise that we're seeing such a positive impact on our youth, expressing that being outdoors has had, that being on the land has had such a positive impact on their mental well-being. Here you can see some of our frustration can be taken out by removing some of the really hard to remove invasives like Scotch broom. If you're ever having a real rough day, just go find yourself some Scotch broom, bend your knees and try to give that a good tug out. I'm telling you, you might only be able to get a little bitty guy because they're tough. And then we have the odamen, which is a heartberry in our language, odamen, heartberry, or the strawberry. A lot of our youth had never even had a strawberry before, a fresh strawberry, like wild strawberry. So that was mind-blowing to them. And then here you can see this little teacher. He was the one that came over. He actually bumped his head into another little one's head. They smacked heads, and he started rubbing, and he's, man, it hurts. So he runs over and he goes, come, show him. And so he showed me that he can go into the river, and this must have been ancestral knowledge because he dug right in that river, no thought about it, grabbed that rock, cold rock, and just put it right there on his head, nice and cool, just like a cold compress. And I was like, you little genius. And so I start cooling myself off in the water too. But right there, he's over there teaching. And so for me, this job has really provided me the opportunity to, like I always say, be that change that you want to see, or be that person that you didn't have growing up that you needed. And so this job provides me the opportunity to do that.
Hey, real quick, hey, when you're out on the land, it really makes you feel small. Hey, but a teaching I'm going to share with you today is a teaching about wild rose. A wild rose really tells us to protect what we love, as how beautiful it is. And in the fall time, they become rose buds, and they have really high vitamin C, and they make you very beautiful. And they really make sure that you protect what you love.
Yeah, Doug Fir really teaches you to be about resilience, I would say, and it also provides electrolyte source when we hike.
Alexis was just yelling about nature's Gatorade. She's not joking. Go snack on some. As I mentioned before, mullein, it helps with asthma. If you think I'm joking, I'm not. Seriously, go dig out there, go pull one out, and go burn it. If you guys have even like just a little bit of you're sick, go ahead and try it. It's actually incredibly helpful.
So for nettle, there is a story, but I will pull a portion of the story out. So here in this picture, you can see I'm whipping Marina. And so what it does is when you whip yourself with nettle, not only does it physically help with pain, but ancestors used to use this to help strengthen themselves spiritually, physically, and emotionally. And so if I can get you guys all to join me in reciting what nettle teaches us, you will repeat after me when I say, I will be strong for my people, I will be strong for my ancestors, and I will be strong for those to come. So if we can say it together. I will be strong for my people, I will be strong for my ancestors, and I will be strong for those to come. Maybe. And so here we got nettle seeds, and if you're down and out, so towards the end of the summer and fall time, these right here, this is all the Red Bull that you'll need. Don't drink no Red Bull. This right here, no crash, nothing. You just take some of those seeds, just a tiny little bundle. You don't even need the whole thing. Just a little string right there. That's enough as a can of Red Bull. And like I said, you won't have that crash.
So yarrow was the plant I chose when Cinnamon asked me which one I connected with. Yarrow teaches us to have healthy boundaries. Some say that's because of the umbrella or shield shape of the flower. But for me, I picked this plant because it's one of the ones that I see the youth pick up on the quickest. For example, last summer, it was probably our second week out in the woods, and one of the youth fell and cut his arm open on a stump. And it was a small scratch, but it was bleeding quite heavily because it was here on the forearm, which, the veins are close to the surface there. So he took out his little packet like you see there in the middle and dumped some yarrow on it. And what yarrow does is that it coagulates the blood and stops bleeding. It was used as battlefield medicine by Achilles, the Greek hero, hence the name Achillea millefolium, which means leaf of 1,000 cuts. So if you're out and you get a little wound, put a little yarrow on it and it will stop your bleeding.
And then we want to thank you guys for listening to us today, and we want to make sure that when you guys are out on nature, you guys can really learn. And when you guys are out in nature, just think about all the teachings that you guys have learned and all the future to come. Hey, thank you guys.